He's done it! 4! Balotelli! Aguero! Cahill! Cahill! Tim Cahill has done it again! What a goal by Tim Cahill!
Hello everybody and welcome to the Premier League Nightclub podcast. My name is Damon and with me I have the Woodrow Woody. We're back for episode 3 of the Nightclub Minis.
Yes, we are, Damo, and boy, we've done a bit of chat during the week, and we realised after the last couple of episodes, Ep 38 with Big Johnny Iredale, and then the last Nightclub Mini as well, we realised we didn't pick a topic to do for this mini. And would you like to tell everyone what we've decided that we're gonna roll with?
Well, for those who follow us on the socials, probably already know, but we have decided to pick out the best individual Premier League performances of the last 20 years, we'll say. Just times where the boys have, or a particular man has just put the boys on his shoulders and take them to the promised land, just when it's all down to one man and he's done the job.
Yeah, completely. But none of them match up with your performances of Friday Night Futsal, mate. I can't lie. You have been elite.
Too kind.
It's elite. And then also, throwback to when we used to play Sunday League as well. You used to be our keeper after being conned into being keeper for the season. And you just made some Spider-Man saves. Even though you're not the most athletic bloke, I have to say, some of the saves you make are pretty good.
Yeah, I think my best performance, ironically, was probably the first time they ever forced me to do it. Made a few good ones and surprised myself. But I think technically I was doing the wrong thing most of the time, but I guess just worked on instinct and it worked out. But Woody,
yeah,
I've actually come to think, just before we get stuck into the individual performances, I've actually been thinking obviously we've got episode 38 come out last week. We've got 39 and 40 probably planned for within the next month, so those who are keen for them, listen out. But I was just thinking, as much as I love the Nightclub Minis, they're great, and people tend to be liking them, getting good feedback. I would just say that the main thing I'm enjoying about these Nightclub Minis is an excuse to get together and have a chat about football, just to talk to you, mate. Because if it wasn't for this, what on earth? There would be no content at all. Thank God for this mini-series, because the podcast would just be, crickets. Absolute crickets.
I think just the podcasting world in general has just been hit by a truck, really. That is the coronavirus. But lucky we're still producing content, because I know a lot of people out there not getting their weekly podcast because people aren't fortunate enough to have the setup that we have, that we can operate from home and still podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
sure.
I think don't get me wrong, we love the pod. And we know people that listen love the pod as well. And it's just good that we can still roll out content as well, because I think that's what everyone needs, really, is just a bit of nightclub in their life through this whole just depressing phase of the world. We just need a bit more football and need a bit more love. And that's exactly what we're trying to do here at the Nightclub, aren't we, Damo?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the podcasts I listen to, probably about half of them have stopped, half of them keep going, half of them have turned into fortnightly podcasts rather than weekly. So, when they do come out, it's exciting because it's something to bloody do. So hopefully people who listen to this one feel the same. Even though this one's come out a little bit later in the week. So apologies for those who refresh their Spotify daily waiting for it to come out. So, Woody.
Yeah.
Actually, we asked people on social media to send theirs in. We will get to that later in the episode. But until then, we'll just kick it off. We'll get the ball rolling. Woody, hit me up with your first one.
Mate, I have to go with the man that sits in our introduction, Andrei Arshavin, and his 4 goals versus Liverpool in 2009.
Here's Arshavin. He's played in. Arshavin. He's done it! 4!
Yes, that is Andrei Arshavin. 4, baby, 4! Mate, I don't know how many times we have quoted that before we started the podcast, and I guess we were just lucky enough to have the ability to stick it in our introduction so we can hear it every week. But yeah, this Andrei Arshavin masterclass for Arsenal when he scored 4 goals from Arsenal's midfield at Liverpool as well to dent Liverpool's title chase back in 2009. And guess to put this display into perspective, Arshavin's 4 goals that night constituted for almost half of the goals that Liverpool conceded at Anfield for the entire season, and that was 9. So, I mean, in this 4-all draw, many argue that he did actually jack shit other than score 4 goals. But
I think 2 of them were Liverpool
goals on
mistakes.
a quiet night at Anfield. You would take 4 goals on a quiet night at Anfield,
Absolutely.
no doubt. So
I just remember him running away with the number 4, showing the number 4 and just yelling 4 and then shushing. I'm not really sure who he was shushing because he was running to the away fans, which were his own fans. But I think just the pure emotion on his face, that was unreal. And of course, when he did score the 4th, that put Arsenal ahead, but Liverpool hit back, I think through Ben Ayew. That made it 4-4, but I think it's not even a think. I absolutely know it is because I've watched the highlights that many times.
Mate, it's just iconic goal. And it's the funny thing is when he put the 4 up as well, it was almost shocked that he had the 4. Because a few of the goals, I guess
he did it for 3 as well.
Yeah, it just and a few of the goals, I think the third one especially, just sat to him really. So it was just, I think he was just as shocked as everyone else that he bagged 4 goals. But Damo, who is your first iconic performance?
Well, mine, I wouldn't say, I've probably gone a bit unders here in whether it's iconic, but originally I was actually going to go for Wijnaldum and his 4 goals for Newcastle in a 6-2 romping of Norwich in 2015, really because I wanted to pick a player that had a performance that made him bought by a massive club. So obviously Wijnaldum, that sort of performance put him on the football map, if you want to say, and then ended up going to Liverpool at the end of that season. But my actual performance that I've picked for a Liverpool player is Sadio Mane versus Manchester City for Southampton in 2016.
Playing Mane, and Mane is onside! Hat-trick!
Mane absolutely ruined Man City in 2016. A hat-trick in a 4-2 win that actually led to Southampton making Europa League for the second season in a row. I think they finished 6th that season. But it was his performance that pretty much ruined Man City's potential title that season. He had 5 shots on goal, 4 of them were on target. He had the most touches on the ground, 72, and for a winger, that's pretty extraordinary. And 8 tackles as well. So more than any other teammate. He was just everywhere, and it was just one of those performances that, again, at the end of that season, he went to Liverpool for about 34 million. I just thought it was the making of Sadio Mane. Yes, he'd already had a hat-trick before in the league the previous season, actually against Aston Villa, when he scored 3 goals in 2 minutes and 56 seconds. Still a record today, and I don't think that's ever going to be broken, well, at least for not a very, very, very long time. But yeah, I just think that performance alone got him the sale to Liverpool, and it's one that I often remember, a big 4-2 scoreline to Southampton. Woody, have you got another one for me?
I do. I have to go to an iconic game as well, which produced multiple iconic performances. That was Manchester United 8-2 romping of Arsenal back in 2011. And the man that I've chosen out of potentially Wayne Rooney and Ashley Young is Ashley Young. So here it is, Ashley Young versus Arsenal 2011.
To Young. Young has a go. Great corner! Oh, sensational! Ashley Young's first goal for Manchester United.
Yes, and it was a famous game. It was Wayne Rooney did score a hat-trick, but Ashley Young produced a masterclass and a half. Or I remember him cutting in from the left and producing 2 massive right foot benders that beat the keeper at the time. And he had 3 assists as well to go along with 100% tackle accuracy. A massive oof in an unforgettable game for both teams. One, obviously a club to forget in Arsenal, but I know Manchester United flog their socials with this game all the time, every time they play Arsenal. So, you know what, Damo? That was a huge game. Rooney, Ashley Young, everyone really put in a bit that game. But for me,
I must say, sorry, Woody, I must say that Ashley Young's last few seasons at Man United probably dampened his, what's the word I'm looking for? Just presence, his legacy, I should say. His legacy of a Man United player. Probably, people forget how good Ashley Young was. When he first came to Man United from Aston Villa, he really turned it on. And of course had that massive performance which you were just speaking about, Woody. But he had a great first season on that left wing, and then probably got used as a utility player as he got older, which, some were pretty harsh on him, some thought it was justified. But yeah, Woody, I do remember prime Ashley Young, and the streets will never forget.
Yeah, exactly. And talking about the streets never forgetting, Jamo, who is your next iconic performance?
Mate, this one, I've gone all the way back to 2004, and I just had to fit this guy into my iconic performances because he's probably the most iconic Premier League attacker of all time. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. I think no one has impacted the league as much as this guy.
Bang.
Thierry Henry versus Liverpool in 2004.
Sidestepping one, sidestepping two! That is brilliant! That is simply stunning!
An absolute Premier League classic back in 2004. Arsenal were on their charge for an undefeated season. They ended up winning this one 4-2 as well, same as my last game, which put them 7 points clear. Funny enough, our very own Harry Kewell had a front row seat to this one, and he watched probably one of the most famous Premier League goals of all time. Henry did score a hat-trick in this one, but it was his second and Arsenal's third that everybody remembers. It's the one where he pretty much skips past 3 or 4 Liverpool players, makes Jamie Carragher look like he puts Jamie Carragher into another postcode. It's absolutely outrageous. He broke his ankles like crazy, and it's actually, he made Liverpool look second-rate. And we're talking about a team here that a few months later lost Michael Owen to Real Madrid and ended up winning the Champions League. That's how strong that Liverpool team were. Some people say they should have won the Premier League in that generation, which they probably should have. So, I mean, for what Henry to do what he did was just something that obviously makes him worthwhile to be spoken about 16 years after it happened. And he's an absolute legend. And if you hear him talk, he's really, really interesting to listen to. But yeah, Thierry Henry, my man for most iconic goal and iconic performance. Probably I'm going to talk about on this pod. Woody, who have you got up next?
Alrighty, Damo. My next one here, I've actually gone for a keeper. And this is a little bit unorthodox, I guess, in this selection, but it's Tim Krul versus Tottenham in 2013.
I remember this one.
And I chose this game because I'm fairly sure we were both watching this game, which I think was a precursor to a United game. But anyway, I was watching this game, and I remember it being probably perhaps one of the greatest goalkeeping games I've ever seen.
Towards the back post, the header comes in. What a save by Tim Krul. He's been absolutely magnificent.
And of course, it's a little bit hard to rank goalkeeper performances, but
we're talking except for my own, right?
Yeah,
we're talking except for Sunday League.
Streets will never forget you in Sunday League, mate. I'm sure your old mate Fabregas has actually heard about your prowess in the Sunday League.
Not this again.
But anyway, some people say that it's just a good goalie game but for me, Krul was making just world-class save after world-class save, and he made a really famous one where he sort of dived to his right and clawed it out of the goal. But then also he saved one with his face, which was pretty amazing that game.
Yeah, the face one was the triple save. That's my favourite.
Yeah, it was absolutely nuts. Anyway, the amount of times he changed direction that game, I guess mid-dive or shifting across was nuts, and he just was covering the goal like something I'd never seen before, an absolute spider. And he was getting peppered as well versus Tottenham. I'm pretty sure they went on to win 1-0 that game. But this was actually the first game that saw the great Andre Villas-Boas collapse and the mutual agreement to leave the club 3 weeks earlier. It all started with this Newcastle game when they downed them 1-0, and Tim Krul got man of the match, deservedly so. Definitely one of the best goalkeeping performances I've seen, right up there with the likes of Guillermo Ochoa in the World Cup as well for Mexico, and then probably David De Gea versus Everton a few years back. But Damo, who is your third iconic performance?
My final one that I want to talk about is probably not one statistically that's the biggest performance of all time. Not even close, to be honest. But for me, it was one for the non-believers. And this was Riyad Mahrez versus Manchester City at the Etihad in 2016.
Good and strength as well there. Mahrez has made something of that. It's Mahrez! 2-0 to Leicester City! Astonishing developments here. They've done exactly what they did at the start of the first.
The Foxes rocked up to this one, Woodra, at the top of the Premier League table. They rocked up to the Etihad, and the bookies still had him at rank outsiders. Riyad Mahrez was having absolutely none of it. I remember we actually went to the pub the following day. So that game was on a Saturday night, and we went to the Harp. We went to the Harp on a Sunday, and they were showing the replay, and it wasn't even live. And I still had to stop, put my beer down, and watch what Riyad Mahrez was doing. It was something. He just rocked up and made the whole Etihad even more quieter than usual. It was one of those performances which pretty much made everyone believe Leicester were capable of winning the league. I think by that point, as I said, they were top of the league, but it gave them a gap which no one really saw coming. And it really hurt Man City as well, because I think they went on to lose 2 or 3 more games in the following weeks after that, and gave them a massive gap between them and Tottenham and Arsenal. And so, yeah, just in general, that one, ironically, Riyad Mahrez now plays for Man City, but that one was probably his best individual performance I've ever seen, because he didn't rely on other players at all. It was just your typical, well, not even typical, to be honest. It was just your left winger, right winger. He was everywhere. I don't even know what position he played that day, because when you watch the game, he was everywhere.
Maybe we should get into what people in our social media think. And we put out a little bit of a poll on the Instagram, and we got a couple of responses as well, but we've just chosen some of the best ones. And the first one is Dimos Tree 21. He has gone Suarez versus Norwich 2013.
I remember this one as well.
Yeah, and
this is one of the more unreal performances, you will say.
Yeah, just 4 goals from the old bite man, including a lob volley from almost halfway, juggled to himself over defender, and then he hit a half volley from outside the box. And then he also scored a stunning free kick from 40 yards as well. Bit of a bender, so that was massive. And these goals were his 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th goals against Norwich, out of a total of 12 in just 6 games. He became the first Liverpool player to score 3 league hat-tricks against the same club. So that was huge from Suarez, and one of those where, he just went absolutely off. Damo, take us on to our next man.
We had another entry, I'll call it, from Rolly M8, or Rolly Mate, I don't know what he's going for here. Berbatov versus Blackburn in 2010. And I think everybody remembers this one. And the funniest thing about this one for me is Berbatov actually hadn't scored for 10 games going into this one, and boy did he make up for it. He smashed 5 in a 7-1 win. But I think the funniest goal of them was his 5th one, because he actually got the ball in a reasonably good position. You wouldn't have criticised him for having a shot, but he tried to pass it across to Wayne Rooney. And basically, the ball is blocked by a defender, but the keeper had come across to try and stop the cross originally. So when it went back to Berbatov, the goal was wide open, and he just nailed it in from a tight angle. It was one of those days where the ball was just bouncing perfectly for Dimitar Berbatov all day. He was almost laughing by the end of it. You felt sorry for Blackburn, because if that game went for another 20 minutes, he would have ended up with 10. It was just ridiculous how everything went his way that day. An unbelievable performance. Mm-hmm. I think we got one more, don't we?
Yeah, we do. It's from Josh _Slapulovsky. And that's Eden Hazard versus Sunderland in 2000.
I think he won our prize, didn't he?
Oh, he did. Yes,
he did.
Oh, that's right. He's a long-time supporter of the nightclub. This bloke.
Yeah.
Still can't say his surname, but it doesn't matter. Eden Hazard versus Sunderland in 2013. And that game was absolutely immense from Eden Hazard.
That was the definition of putting the boys on the shoulders, pretty much. It really was.
Yeah, scored a huge brace and a come from behind 4-3 win with 2 amazing finishes. All I remember is the 1-2 and finish for the winner was absolutely out of this world. Anyway, he carried Chelsea over the line that game, and but then also Mourinho said, gave some praise to one of his plays, which is very unlike him. Said Hazard was absolutely freakish. And then as well, Gus Poyet, who was the manager of Sunderland at the time, did say that if it wasn't for Hazard, they probably would have won, and that he was extremely proud of what Sunderland did, but they just couldn't get past the Belgians. So, yeah, it just says something about his performance in general. But yeah, Damo, what an episode, mate. Few iconic performances.
I'll tell you what, in doing this research, one thing I was really, really not annoyed about, but was frustrating, was the fact that when I was doing research, there's so many performances that weren't actually Premier League performances. I think back to Brazilian Ronaldo at Old Trafford in the Champions League, Gareth Bale versus Inter Milan in 2010 or 11 in the Champions League, when he scored 2 goals in the last 2 minutes to sneak them a draw, I think, in the group stage. Thierry Henry absolutely manhandled Inter Milan back in the day as well. There's so many. I think actually international-wise, my favourite one, David Beckham at Old Trafford for England. Scored an equaliser against Greece to send them to the World Cup.
Then he got red carded, didn't he?
It was something crazy happened in the World Cup. He definitely got red carded. I think that was the. Oh wait, no, that was the World Cup before. I think I'm getting my timeline wrong.
Bad.
He definitely. Yeah, he got sent off. That was like his redemption.
Like it was going to the left post and then it just bent all the way to the right post. It's crazy.
Yeah, that was his redemption game pretty much because for the whole country hated him for 4 years because he got sent off. But yeah, just so many games that just stick in your mind for different reasons as well. Whether it be like the making of a player, carrying the boys over the line, or just anything in between that. It's incredible what the Premier League can give us, and we've only picked 6 games in like 16 years of football, but we could easily have picked out Sergio Aguero's 5 goals against Newcastle. Berbatov, we've spoken about Berbatov's 5-goal haul against Blackburn, but he scored a hat-trick against Liverpool. So, there's so many moments that we just don't talk about, and if we had 4 hours, we still probably wouldn't get through it all, would we, Woody?
Mate, we 100% would not have because... Mate, there have been some absolutely crazy performances that we've been lucky enough to see in our lifetime. But then I know, for example, the likes of Alan Shearer when he scored 5 in a game in 1999. Like, that's the sort of stuff that we haven't seen, but we still hear of.
Yeah.
So, there's so much that we could have talked about in this episode, but there's only so much that we can sort of put in as well. But yeah, hopefully everyone recognizes these iconic performances and sees where we're coming from these ones. But yeah, Damo, I think it's about time to decide what are we going to pick for next week's topic.
Oh, this is a toughie. I mean, we've gone transfers, we've done young guns, we've now done iconic performances. Mm-hmm. Oh, we could have a look at maybe perhaps iconic teams, but. I like the idea of iconic teams, but you can't just pick title-winning teams like the Invincibles.
Maybe we'll go what could have been teams.
Okay. So, I mean, I'm not going to give away too much, but are we talking about potentially a Southampton from a couple of years ago? Is that sort of where we're going?
I think that's probably a good one. That's probably the one that springs to mind for me. Maybe even the Tottenham side of 2012, 2013.
I think the West Ham. There's a few West Ham teams that were actually not too bad back in the day as well. So I'll do my research and come back to you next week
for sure
with some quality teams that couldn't get the job done.
So we're locking that one in. Teams that could have been.
I reckon teams that could have been. I reckon we locked that one in. I like
Love it. All right, Damo. If you want to catch us on the socials, where can you find us?
You can catch us on the Twitter at PL Nightclub. We're posting multiple times a day at the moment. It's big. Woody, where can you find us on the Insta?
You can find us at Premier League Nightclub on the Insta. I'm not going to lie, I have been a little bit slack in the past week. Uni has caught up with me and socked me in the face. So it's been a slow week on the socials for the Instagram. But however, you keep an eye out, Damo. We're going to be posting some seriously hot stuff in the next week and maybe an EP 39 to come next week as well.
Yeah, get keen for that. Keep an eye out for that. It'll be all over the socials. And, of course, on the Facebook, just search Premier League Nightclub. We'll be there. Woody, have you got anything else to add? I mean, I'm pretty happy to wrap this one up. The Nightclub Mini Episode 3.
Mate, I'm very happy to wrap up the Nightclub Mini Ep 3. I love this one. Bring back some hardcore memes. I've loved it. I've loved being on the airwaves.
I think I'm going to go back and watch some retro games. Just some real, absolute, iconic games. I've got to go back and watch them.
Yeah.
Anyway, Woody, I'm going to go watch them now, so I'm heading out.
All right, Damo, I guess I'll speak to you next week.
Yeah, too easy.
All right, guys, thank you very much for being in the Premier League Nightclub. Stay safe, stay at home, and thank you. See you next week.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter, yes. See you guys.